Imagine this. You are sitting in silence, but there is no quiet. A relentless voice fills the space behind your eyes, a ceaseless stream of commentary, judgment, and rehearsal. It dissects a conversation from yesterday. It rehearses a problem for tomorrow. It whispers anxieties you cannot name. This is your mind, and it feels like you. But what if, right now, you could reach for a simple glass of water on the table, and in the moment your fingers touch the cool surface, in the pure sensation of thirst being met, the voice stopped, not in sleep, but in waking clarity. For a single shimmering second, you were utterly present, and the weight you've carried since you can remember simply vanished. Then the voice returns. What was that? It asks, already trying to claim the experience. This, according to Eckhart Tolle in The Power of Now, is the most intimate and defining struggle of your life. The war between your thinking mind and the timeless presence of your being. The central paradox Tolle presents is both devastating and liberating. The very instrument you believe to be you, your analytical, problem-solving, story-creating mind, has become a tyrant. It has convinced you that your identity is woven from its endless strands of thought and emotion. You live trapped in a ghostland of mental projections, regretting the unchangeable past, fearing the imagined future, while life, actual life, unfolds in a dimension it cannot touch, the now. This is the tyranny. Your mind is a brilliant tool for navigating the practical world, but you have been hijacked by it, mistaking the map for the territory, the menu for the meal. You search for peace, for joy, for your true self within the labyrinth of thought. A search Tolle reveals is as futile as trying to calm a stormy lake by stirring the water. The peace you seek is the space between your thoughts, not a different kind of thought. So, you are faced with a haunting question. If you are not the voice in your head, then who or what is listening to it? You felt glimpses of this listener in moments of breathtaking awe before nature, in sudden, wordless compassion, in that split second of total focus where self-consciousness dissolves. In those moments, the tyrant is deposed. Tolle's work is not about adding new philosophies to your mind's library. It is a guidebook for a jailbreak from the inside. It proposes that your fundamental problem is not the content of your life, but your unconscious identification with the thinker of your thoughts. This is the locked door. The book is not a key your mind can hold. It is an invitation to become the key itself, to discover the dimension of consciousness that exists before thought, the one place where the tyranny ends and true freedom begins. The mystery it asks you to solve is not on the page, but in the silent space between your next breath and the thought that tries to name it. So, if the problem is not our life circumstances, but a fundamental misidentification, what is the root of this error? Eckhart Tolle's diagnosis is as precise as it is unsettling. We are suffering from a psychic disease, an addiction to thought, and it is perpetuated by a phantom self he calls the pain body. This is not a metaphor for occasional sadness. This is a documented, energetic entity within your psychological structure, a coalescence of past emotional pain, childhood wounds, old grievances, inherited trauma that has taken up residence in your mind and body. It lies dormant, and then, like a shadowy parasite, it feeds. It feeds on drama, on conflict, on negative thought loops. An offhand comment from a partner, a minor setback at work, and this dormant pain body awakens, merges with your thinking mind, and becomes you. In that moment, you are not a person reacting to a present moment event. You are the accumulated pain of your entire history, reliving and re-energizing itself. Tolle's genius is in linking this internal structure to a broader, species-wide affliction. He points to the collective human ego, a vast field of unconsciousness built from millennia of fear, greed, and separation. Your personal pain body is an individual crystallization of this collective dysfunction. Think of it as a psychological counterpart to Carl Jung's concept of the personal and collective unconscious. but with a critical, urgent twist. It is not just a repository of archetypes, but an active, hungry force. The egoic mind, in alliance with the pain body, sustains itself by relentlessly emphasizing a past it cannot change and a future it cannot guarantee. It tells you a story of me and my life, a story defined by lack, by what was done to you, by what you must attain to be whole. This story feels utterly real, but Tolle argues it is a complex defense mechanism against the one thing the ego cannot survive: the obliterating light of present moment awareness. You see this manifest not in grand tragedies, but in the quiet fabric of your daily life. That simmering resentment you occasionally feel for no clear reason, that's the pain body stirring. The compulsive need to scroll, to consume, to be right in an argument, that's the ego mind seeking to fortify its fragile identity. Even your pursuit of enlightenment or happiness can be co-opted by this hidden problem, becoming just another future-oriented project for the ego to claim. The consequence is a life lived in reflection, never in reality. You relate to people through the filters of your accumulated pain and your mental judgments, not to who they are now. You experience a sunset through the thought, "This is beautiful," immediately categorizing it, rather than letting the perception dissolve the thinker entirely. This diagnosis is not meant to condemn, but to create the first vital crack in the prison wall: recognition. By giving a name to this invisible force, the pain body, the egoic mind, Tolle gives you a vantage point from which to observe it. You begin to see, perhaps for the first time, that you have a pain body, but you are not your pain body. You have a mind, but you are not your mind. This separation, this moment of witnessing, is the birth of awareness. It is the dawn of what Tolle calls the watcher. Ignoring this diagnosis, however, means remaining an unconscious puppet of these forces, believing every destructive thought and emotional storm is the ultimate truth of who you are. The tension builds here, in this space between the exposed problem and the promised solution. If you are not the pain, and you are not the thinker, then what action can you possibly take that won't just be another move orchestrated by the tyrant you're trying to escape? If this diagnosis of the hidden tyrant within resonates with you, subscribe to unlock the path to freedom we reveal next. Let us know in the comments. Have you felt the stirring of your own pain body? If the diagnosis is correct, that we are collectively and individually imprisoned by identification with a pain-fed, egoic mind, then the consequences are not merely personal anxieties. They are the very architecture of our shared human suffering, the invisible blueprint for a world perpetually on the edge of crisis. Tolle pulls back the curtain to reveal a staggering truth. Our entire civilization, in many ways, is an externalization of the dysfunctional human mind. The relentless need for more status, more possessions, more conquest, is the ego's insatiable hunger projected onto economics and politics. The deep-seated divisions of us versus them, whether based on nation, ideology, or belief, are the ego's need for separation and identity, crystallized into societal structures. Even our relationship with the planet reflects this inner state. The mindless consumption and exploitation of nature is the ultimate act of a consciousness that cannot feel its intrinsic connection to the whole, that sees only dead matter to be used by a separate self. On a personal level, the unseen consequence is a life perpetually deferred. You become a living regret or a hopeful fantasy. Your body is here, but your mind, haunted by the pain body, is elsewhere. This creates what Tolle terms a phantom self, a conceptual identity built entirely from memory and anticipation. Relationships under this tyranny become transactional battlegrounds where pain bodies seek to either dominate or merge, calling it love. True communion, which can only happen in the shared space of the now, becomes impossible. Creativity is stifled, arising not from a still, deep well of presence, but from the mind's frantic effort to be special. Joy becomes a fleeting sensation, dependent on an outcome, rather than the fundamental peace that underlies all experience, when the mental noise subsides. The most urgent consequence, however, is the complete obscuring of your essential nature. Tolle argues that beneath the storm of thought and emotion, there is a dimension of yourself that is untouched by time, suffering, or death. It is pure consciousness, the I am, before it gets cluttered with I am this or I am that. But the egoic mind, in its survival mode, must veil this truth. To acknowledge the timeless, formless presence within you would be the ego's death sentence. So it keeps you trapped in form and story. It makes the now seem ordinary, mundane, or even threatening, an empty space to be filled with thought, distraction, or past trauma. The profound becomes boring because the mind cannot categorize it. The stakes, therefore, are nothing less than the experience of life itself. You are missing your own existence, trading the vast, alive reality of this moment for a dusty, second-hand narrative about your life. This sets the stage for the ultimate irony. The mind, in its frantic search for security and happiness, is the very engine of its own perpetual insecurity and unhappiness. It solves practical problems, yes, but it cannot solve the problem of itself. Any solution it devises, a new philosophy, a new goal, a new relationship, will simply be absorbed into its story, becoming another chapter in the saga of me. This leads us to the cliff's edge of Tolle's teaching. If all doing and striving is potentially contaminated by the very force we wish to escape, then what path remains? Is there an action that is not of the mind? Is there a way to step out of the stream of time itself? The answer lies not in doing, but in a revolutionary state of being so simple, so accessible, that the seeking mind overlooks it entirely. The prescription, then, is not an action, but a surrender. Not a doing, but an allowing. The path out of the tyranny is so counterintuitive that the mind, seeking a complex solution, initially dismisses it as absurd or passive. Tolle's radical proposal is this: freedom is found not by changing the content of your life, but by changing the context of your consciousness. You break the identification not by battling the mind, but by withdrawing the one thing it needs to survive, your belief in it. You must stop being the thinker and become the watcher. This is the essence of presence. The practical gateway is deceptively simple. Anchor yourself in the now through your inner body and your senses. The mind exists in time, past, and future. The body, however, exists only in the now. Tolle instructs you to direct your attention inward, to feel the aliveness within your hands, your feet, your abdomen. Not to think about them, but to feel the subtle energy field that gives them life. Can you feel your entire hand as a single field of sensation? This simple act creates an immediate shift. For a few seconds, the mental noise recedes because your attention has been withdrawn from thought and placed into direct, present moment sensation. The body is your anchor to the eternal present. Similarly, listen to the silence between and underneath sounds. Look at an object, a plant, a cup, without immediately labeling it. Perceive it in its suckness, its isness. In these gaps of non-thinking, the dimension of being arises. But what of the pain body, that reservoir of old pain? Here, Tolle offers a masterstroke of psychological alchemy. When the pain body activates, dragging you into a storm of negative emotion, the instruction is not to resist, suppress, or analyze it. Resistance is food for it. Instead, you must allow it to be, while intensely feeling the raw energy of the emotion in your body, without weaving a story around it. You feel the clenching in your gut, the heat in your chest, the pressure in your skull, but you do not become the victim saying, "I am so angry." You become the spacious container, the aware presence feeling the anger. You observe the pain body with a cold, clinical curiosity. Ah, this is what that energy feels like. By giving it your full, non-judgmental attention, you are no longer feeding it with thought, and a miraculous transformation occurs. The stored pain, finally acknowledged in the light of consciousness, begins to dissolve and transmute. You are not hurting the pain body. You are seeing it for the first time, and in that seeing, it loses power. This is the secret the book has been guarding. Enlightenment is not a superhuman achievement in a distant future. It is your natural state of connectedness with being, and it is available to you in this breath. It is the space of conscious presence that arises when you are no longer possessed by thought. The goal is not to empty the mind permanently, but to no longer be enslaved by it. You begin to have thoughts, but you don't believe them all. You feel emotions, but you are not drowned by them. Life's challenges still arise, but they are met from a place of inner space and clarity, not from the reactive, cramped confines of the ego. You start to live life as a dance with the present moment, rather than a war with a mental narrative about it. The ultimate shift is from being at war with what is, to being in an allowing, attentive relationship with it. The power, you realize, was never in the next thought, but in the conscious awareness that has been here all along, waiting silently beneath the noise. If this prescription for presence has shifted something within you, subscribe to integrate this truth fully in our final synthesis. Your likes and comments fuel this channel's journey into deeper awareness. The ultimate truth that the power of now arrives at is not a new belief system, but a profound death and rebirth of perception. It is the final synthesis. You are not a human being searching for a spiritual experience. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. And the essence of that spirituality is the conscious, formless presence of the now. Tolle's work culminates in the realization that the timeless dimension of being is not separate from you. It is you, prior to all identity. The mind and body are temporary forms this consciousness assumes, vehicles for interaction in the world of time. But your true identity, the I am that precedes I am this or that, is the very awareness in which the entire drama of thought, emotion, and sensation unfolds. This is the paradigm shift that alters everything. You are the sky, not the weather. After turning the final page, your worldview is permanently altered. You see that the pursuit of happiness, meaning, and salvation in the external world, through achievement, relationships, or accumulation, is the core of the human delusion. True joy, what Tolle calls the joy of being, is not caused by anything. It is the fundamental essence that emanates from within when you are present. It is the peace that passeth understanding, not because it is mystical, but because it exists prior to the mind's ability to understand. Problems in their old sense begin to dissolve. What remains are situations that need to be dealt with in the present moment, free from the crushing psychological weight the mind adds. Even death loses its terror, because you intuit that what is truly you, consciousness itself, was never born and cannot die. It is the space in which the birth and death of forms, including your own body, take place. The book's lasting impact is an invitation to a life of sacred simplicity. It urges you to make now your primary focus, not as a concept, but as a living practice. To use your senses as portals into eternity, to see every person, every creature, every object as a unique manifestation of that one formless life, that one presence meeting itself in the dance of form. Your relationship with the world transforms from one of use and judgment to one of recognition and communion. You begin to live from the inside out, where your inner state of peace is no longer dependent on the outer conditions of your life. And in that unshakable ground, true compassion and effective action become possible. End with this cinematic conclusion. See your life not as a line stretching from a painful past to an uncertain future, but as a series of profound, deep now points. Each breath is an anchor. Each sensation is a doorway. Each moment of allowed emotion is an alchemical fire. The tyranny of the mind is not broken by force, but by a gentle, persistent returning, a returning home to the only time and place life ever truly exists. Here, now. This is not an end, but a beginning. The key was never lost. You were simply looking for it in the wrong place, in the story of yesterday and tomorrow. The door was never locked. You just had to stop pushing against it, and instead, become the space through which it opens. The journey ends where it began, but you see it for the first time. You are here. You are awake. And in this realization, the search is over, and life, in all its unbearable and beautiful immediacy, can finally begin.